タイプ C の充電式。え？電池じゃないの。充電式だな。動いてたよ、充電したら。知らない。こっちの2桁やるのね。
使わなくていいから、こっちの向きの方がいいんじゃない？こっちの向きの方が。柱の前にして。使えないと。テスト。使えないと。
こんにちは、こんにちは。
もう登録した。ありがとう。すいません。
テスト。
ありがとうございます。そうですね。履いてる？本当そうですね。足がつっちゃってる。でも、下手だからしょうがないです。
GMM 使わないんですね。商品券買った？商品券買った？ビール券。あ、酒屋で売ってるじゃん、ビール券。どこの酒屋で売ってる？その場で飲まないよ。おかしいだろ、その場で飲む。なんで一緒に飲まなきゃいけないんだ。去年は忘年会だったから。
それがさっき飲んじゃったら、
商品券の渡してちょっと話してそれで違うとこ行って何？
ゼリー。
なんで老練のあそこで飲まなきゃいけないんだ。ビール券何枚か渡せばあれじゃねえの？10枚ぐらいは20本入りに20本分ぐらい置いてけんじゃねえの？来た？
来てない。
うちら食べちゃえばいいじゃん。ビール券だけ持ってけば十分でしょう。ブリーなんて持ってかなくたって。
大丈夫そうでしょうか。
さすがに食い物は置いてるのか。どっちある？アスクル。アスクル。
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome today's guest speaker. お写真撮る方、どうぞ前の方にお願いします。最初お写真撮らせていただきます。
よろしくお願いします。
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, here in this room and online for coming today. I have a great honor to moderate this event. My name is Khaldoun Azari. I'm a member of the board. I am former president and also member of PAC committee, which organized such important press conference. It's my great honor to host today Mr.達増拓也. He's the governor of Iwate prefecture. That's a beautiful prefecture up northeast of Japan, facing the Pacific Ocean, and unfortunately it was hit by the tsunami 2011, but it made a remarkable recovery, as we saw in many reports and photographs. And I think the current leadership of the city and the prefecture now, with the government,達増拓也, is doing also continuing the work and trying to improve the local areas, and especially Morioka city, which is featured in many important international media. And the governor will talk about it in today's press conference. And our guest speaker started his professional life after graduating from Tokyo University in the, I think, specialized in law, and then joined the foreign ministry. He was a diplomat in Singapore, and also worked in the ministry in the science department. And then he moved to politics, a lower house member for the party, Shinshinto party, was led by the strongman politician Chiro Ozawa, and he moved along with new parties that time. And then he became the governor of Iwate, as we know. And today's event, we will have about 30 minutes presentation by the governor, I think in English. That will be followed by Q&A for about half an hour. And let me introduce the interpreter today at my far right, Ms. Amanda Wayama. She's from the government of Iwate also. She's here. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest speaker, Mr.達増. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khaldoun Azari. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am達増拓也, the governor of Iwate Prefecture. And thank you so much for this opportunity to speak today at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. In January of this year, the New York Times published its 52 places to go in 2023. Morioka City, the capital of Iwate Prefecture, was listed at number 2. We are seeing a growth of people visiting Iwate. Today, I'll be talking about these three points. First, I'd like to share why Morioka was chosen by the New York Times for its 52 places article. Next, MLB Shohei Ohtani is originally from Iwate Prefecture. So I want to talk about what made it possible for Iwate to produce him and other superstars playing on the global stage. Finally, I'd like to talk about the unexpected greatness of the local regions. It is the charm and value of these regions that means that they must play a leading role in the future. Just to clarify, for this presentation, when I say local regions, I'm referring to the prefectures, cities, towns, and villages outside of the greater Tokyo area. We usually call this 地方 in Japanese. For the rest of my presentation, I'll use the term local regions for 地方. First, let's start with why Morioka City was chosen by the New York Times. Iwate Prefecture is located in the Tohoku region of Japan, with the second largest land area after Hokkaido. It is home to around 1.2 million people. with just 79 people per square kilometer. Iwate's population density is rather sparse when compared to Tokyo, where you have to fit 6,386 people into the same area. 79 people in Iwate and 6,386 people per square kilometer in Tokyo. If we look abroad, Iwate is at about the same density as France and Spain. Sounds comfortable, doesn't it? From Tokyo, it takes around 2 hours by Shinkansen or bullet train to reach the capital of Morioka. Morioka in inland Iwate is home to the prefectural government offices. It's a mid-sized city with a population of around 280,000. The New York Times 52 Places to Go in 2023 was released in January this year. London was first on the list, and in second was none other than Morioka. Morioka had been praised for, one, the fact that it can be reached easily from Tokyo by Shinkansen. 2, there is no crowding. And 3, it's a very walkable city. I agree with those sentiments. Some of the charms of Morioka talked about in the article were the buildings with a mix of Eastern and Western architecture that were built in the early 20th century. One of the shining examples of that type of architecture is the Iwate Bank red brick building. There's also the rivers throughout the city. Here, the Nakatsu River, which runs through the heart of Morioka, one can see salmons swimming upstream in the autumn to lay their eggs. Yes, it's a salmon. Here is the Morioka Castle Site Park, home to the rock walls of the former Morioka Castle built over 400 years ago. There are many coffee shops in Morioka, of which the New York Times article showcased Nagasawa coffee. Morioka is full of traditional Japanese coffee shops, kissaten, and coffee bean roasters. The article additionally showcased the soba shop Azumaya, which serves wanko soba, a traditional noodle dish where you eat as much soba as you can from small bowls. The article then talked about Book Nerd, which sells vintage art books, and Johnny's, a jazz cafe with over 40 years of history. In addition to coffee shops, these soba restaurants, bookstores, and music cafes shape the daily life culture of Morioka City. This culture of everyday life is what charmed writer Craig Modd. Mr. Craig Modd, who recommended Morioka to the New York Times, told a story about the Times article in his newsletter. Modd is originally from the United States and has resided in Japan for 23 years, currently living in Kamakura. He has visited many regional cities throughout Japan and has been published previously by the New York Times. In Modd's newsletter, he writes about asking Stephen Hiltner at the New York Times editor's desk why Morioka was selected as number 2 on the list. According to Hiltner, London's placement at number 1 reflects its timeliness as a travel destination this year, in large part because of the coronation of King Charles III. And the base way of answering why we chose to include Morioka is to consider Modd's words. As for why Morioka came in at number 2, Hiltner said, "We know that readers have immense interest, especially now in Japan, so it felt fitting to include it near the top." Let me explain. Japan removed some of its most stringent travel restrictions last October. That removal had been waited for by overseas trip lovers all over the world. So the New York Times saved a place near the top for somewhere in Japan. I suppose there were many proposals and suggestions for which place in Japan should be chosen. Finally, it was Mod's words that made the New York Times choose Morioka. Let me introduce Mod's explanation in his newsletter. He recommended Morioka because, I quote, "There is a youthful spirit suffusing the city with so many shops run by folks under 40. And also that Morioka is a cityscape in healthy dialogue with the surrounding rivers and mountains." He sees the beauty and wonder in Morioka, remarking that there are many cities like Morioka, but Morioka is, in its own right, archetypically unique. I myself, as a born and raised Moriokan, agree wholeheartedly with his sentiments. I was deeply moved by his newsletter. Here's Mod in his own words for why he recommended Morioka. Because your city is beautiful, because your food is delicious, because your people are kind and committed, because your streets face nature in a way that buoys the spirit. He even wrote, "Thank you for making this place and letting me be here." Please imagine how I felt when I read these words. Mid-sized cities are let's see. Yes. Mid-sized cities are defined as a city that has a population of 200,000 or more and is relatively large in size and capacity, other than an ordinance-designated city. Well, the Japanese government designated ordinance-designated city literally means, well, 政令指定都市 in Japanese, like Yokohama, Sapporo, Sendai, Fukuoka, such, well, 1 million population big cities are called ordinance-designated city in Japan. And this designated mid-level city, in Japanese we call it Chukakushi. Chukakushi literally means core city. Majorities of them are capitals of prefectures, including Morioka City in number 5. And I refer these core city or designated mid-level city as mid-sized cities in my presentation. Okay, I want to share not only Morioka, but also the mid-sized regional cities in Japan with the world. If we look at Craig Modd's praise of Morioka once again, we can summarize it down to 4 points. It's a beautiful city with delicious food, people who are kind and work hard, and it's in harmony with nature in a way that lifts the spirit. These are things you can praise all of the mid-level regional cities in Japan, more or less. First, they have lots of historical architecture, typically a castle or castle site. Most capital city of prefecture in Japan has a castle or a castle site. Second, they have food that represents the unique characteristics of the area. Mid-sized regional cities are usually surrounded by agricultural areas which provide fresh products. They also have a well-established wholesale market where prefecture specialty food is traded. Third, they have the modern amenities of a big city with a laid-back feeling of the countryside, both. And fourth, they have a beautiful nature with rivers, forests, and more. Well, like this. This is a picture of Morioka city, yes, Mount Iwate and Kitakami River. And let me add some other examples of everyday life culture of Iwate, because I think such everyday life culture is very important in mid-sized cities. Morioka ramen is a Korean-style cold noodle. Morioka jajangmyeon is northern Chinese-style meat sauce noodle. Fukuda Bakery is sandwich with fluffy bread. It's nicely soft loaf with nicely soft loaf. We even have a traditional event all about horses in Morioka. The Chagu Chagu Umako Festival is a parade of horses wearing colorful decorations as they march through paddy field, rice field. The parade starts at the shrine in the agricultural area, and its goal is the shrine in downtown Morioka. So it represents the relationship between mid-sized city and surrounding agricultural areas. Regarding the reconstruction from the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami, which Iwate Prefecture experienced, while the inland areas suffered relatively little damage, from the very beginning, they worked to support the affected coastal areas by providing supplies, sending volunteers, and hosting survivors in temporary capacities. Following that, they continue to support survivors in rebuilding their lives. And recently, we see initiatives from students in the inland areas that try to pass on the lessons learned from the disaster. Mid-sized cities often cultivate a fine civic society. Morioka showed the maturity of its civic society when the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami occurred. Morioka City also worked to build public housing and otherwise support the survivors who moved there from the coast. The sense of duty to the reconstruction and its continued support to survivors had truly matured Morioka as a city. It is this maturation, along with its natural environment, culture, and cuisine, that led to its high evaluation in the New York Times, I think. The New York Times article showed how important it is to shine a light on and praise the often overlooked charm and potential of the local regions of Japan. Next, I'd like to talk about something many have asked me, what made it possible for Iwate produce a star like Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani led the Japan team to victory in March's World Baseball Classic, and day after day he excels as a two-way player in the MLB. Ohtani was born and raised in Oshu City in Iwate. At an interview following his win at the WBC, a commentator asked, "What planet are you from?" Ohtani said, he was raised in a rural town without a lot of baseball teams, but he wanted to show that if you work hard, you too could make it to the world stage. Oshu's population is about 110,000. It is actually a considerable population from Iwate's point of view. Anyway, it is smaller than the mid-sized city of Morioka. There are other magnificent players like Shohei Ohtani from Iwate playing on the world stage. Roki Sasaki with the Chiba Lotte Marines, who also played a huge role in the World Baseball Classic, is one of the most talked about players in Japan right now. Yusei Kikuchi of the Toronto Blue Jays didn't play in the WBC, but is continuing to win games in the league. Ryoyu Kobayashi is a ski jumper who took both gold and silver at the men's normal hill individual event at the Beijing Winter Olympics. We also have Hideaki Nagai, who got the bronze medal at the Nordic combined event at Beijing. Additionally, there's a snowboarder Reida Iwabuchi and sport climber Futaba Ito. When I was young, about 40, 50 years ago, you just didn't see this amount of sport players from Iwate in the international arena. In the past 30 years, Iwate sports has evolved in leaps and bounds. And it's not just sports players. We have cultural players too. Last year, the student choir teams of both Kurosawa Jirikita Elementary School and Kozukata High School fielded choir teams that won top prizes at national choir competitions. The quality of our teams has grown leaps and bounds compared to the past. But this doesn't just apply to Iwate. You can say it about the whole country of Japan. Japan's bubble economy burst in the 1990s, and we have called the period since the lost 30 years. The lost 30 years. Politicians have worked the reform, the stagnating economy, but those efforts are still underway. However, as I indicated, the local regions have shown amazing development in sports and cultural activities. There are many reasons you could give for this: good food, good air and water, a stress-free environment. But I think it has a lot to do with the upgrades to infrastructure. I'll use Iwate's situation as an example. Japan saw a high pace of economic growth from 1955 to 1973. The high-speed transportation network in Iwate was created mainly in the 1970s and 80s. In Iwate, the Tohoku Shinkansen line from Morioka to Omiya was unveiled in 1982. It used to take around 6.5 hours to get to Tokyo from Morioka. With the Shinkansen, this time shrunk to about 3 hours and change. The track was then stretched to Ueno and Tokyo stations, making the Shinkansen even more convenient. You can now travel between Morioka and Tokyo in about 2 hours. Up until then, it was too difficult for Iwate performers to play or train at the national top level. So this was an opportunity for young people involved with sports and cultural activities. The Iwate portion of the Tohoku Expressway opened in 1983. It became much more convenient to travel within Iwate as well as outside, and it became possible to practice with strong opponents often. The high-speed transportation network greatly contributed to raising the level of Iwate's sports and cultural activities. The Kozukata High School choir team, one of the best in Japan, annually visits such European cities as Vienna, Milan, and Paris to sing there and listen to music there. As infrastructure crossing prefectures help to improve the quality of sports and cultural activities, infrastructure within a prefecture is also helpful. In general, prefectures built sports and cultural facilities in the 1970s, and municipalities, cities, towns, and villages in Japan built sports and cultural facilities in the 1990s. You can see some in the pictures, for example. In the 1970s, I was a junior high school student in Morioka. We annually held a school competition of class choir in the school gym. Only the champion class took part in the inter-school music festival and sang on the stage of the prefectural cultural hall, best hall in Morioka. Today, an annual school competition of class choir of my junior high is held in the Morioka City Culture Hall. In the 1970s, there were only a few baseball parks in Iwate Prefecture. Now, almost each of the 33 municipalities in Iwate has a good quality baseball park of its own. Kids enjoy playing and practicing baseball in a good facility, and Shohei Ohtani did so very well. The big jump in information technology over recent years has also had a huge effect on the local regions. We are now able to see and study cutting-edge performances and theories and learn new training methods, all while being in Iwate. What's more, by connecting with people from all over the world, we can now share our knowledge and techniques with each other. The level of sports and cultural activities in the local regions has greatly improved thanks to the effective utilization of infrastructure matched with the development of information technology. Shohei Ohtani was raised in Iwate, but was able to train using advanced theories and experience matches with the best players in the country. He entered Japan's baseball league and then now is soaring on the international stage. There is a stereotype that the local regions of Japan are in decline. In terms of population, it is, but I would like to propose that the local regions are actually full of unexpected greatness. Besides the New York Times article and Shohei Ohtani, Iwate has examples of interacting with the world and has received high praise from the international community. Last year in August, famed British school Harrow International opened its Happy Japan campus in Iwate. The scientific community has been working to site the International Linear Collider project in Iwate. Should this dream be realized, the greatest researchers and engineers in the world will gather in Iwate, and it would create an international hub of science and research. I'd like to once again reflect on Craig Modd's praise of Morioka. Because your city is beautiful, because your food is delicious, because your people are kind and committed, because your streets face nature in a way that buoys the spirit. As I've been saying, the local regions have an unexpected greatness and charm. It's just that the people living there haven't realized it, and the people living outside haven't caught on yet. The local regions have developed great and charming mid-sized cities with their own cultures of everyday life, which are quite attractive for both their own citizens and foreign tourists. The local regions have become the ideal environment for sport and culture. What is needed now is to turn our gazes toward the charm and goodness of the local regions and maintain and further develop the environment there. In the 21st century, the national government of Japan has become reluctant to create transportation infrastructure and public facilities in the local cities and prefectures of Japan. For context, the public investment of the 1980s and 90s did increase the country's debt, fiscal debt, and people say there were many unnecessary projects. But even with the recent efforts to 地方創生 or revitalize the local regions, the national government's stance is that it will not increase public works nor share more revenue with the local governments. It's true we must refrain from wasteful undertakings. However, as I explained today, there are also worthwhile projects, and withholding financial outlays to the whole nation and local regions is not the right path. We must use the past as reference to effectively push forth the projects, and by doing that, we can maintain and develop the greatness of the local regions. Some believe the over-concentration in Tokyo is what's contributing to the low birth rate of Japan. So improving the local regions may go on to improve the birth rate as well. Iwate, showcased by the New York Times and the birthplace of Shohei Ohtani, I think we should deliberate, discuss, and act to create a society that gives hope to the people of the local regions. We will work hard with a sense of responsibility to make that possible. Also, I think it's our responsibility to share with others the greatness and charm of the local regions. I hope you come to visit the local regions of Japan like Craig Mod. And of course, I hope that you visit Iwate and Morioka, but I won't hold it against you if you want to go somewhere else. Anywhere, any place. On a final note, we are now in the season of summer festivals. The Morioka Sansa Odori Festival will be held in Iwate for 4 days from August 1st through the 4th. These summer festivals show off the special characteristics of each region and are a valuable way to experience things that can only be experienced in these places. I hope you get to visit the local regions of Iwate, find some new walkable gems for yourselves, and become their greatest fans. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Governor, for your encouragement to visit Iwate. We promise we will go there in the first possible press tour. I would like to open the floor to questions and answers. If you have any, please raise your hand and proceed to the mic there. Yes? Okay, please go ahead.
Takuya Nishimura, Hokkaido Shimbun. I would say congratulations for the silver medal in the New York Times ranking. So I would like to ask about the future of Morioka. It can be said that the Morioka is no longer, Morioka is the top runner of Japan in the ranking of New York Times. That means that the Morioka is no longer unexpected greatness city, because this is very well known about Morioka. So what is your strategy to maintain that position and developing the city or prefecture? Especially, I'm interested in how to maintain the demographic youth under 40 ages. Thank you very much.
ニューヨーク・タイムズで2位を取っておめでとうございます。盛岡の将来について伺います。ニューヨーク・タイムズは盛岡は2位を取ったということで、もう地方としては まだ知られてないいいところではなくても知って、いただいていると思いますが、これからその良さを維持してそして発展させていくためにはどのようなことをしますでしょうか。特にその若い人の、そういった人口といいますか、どのように維持していくかお考えを伺いいたします。
Yes. The fact that Morioka was chosen by New York Times is well known now, but people don't know about Morioka, Iwate well still. For example, I've heard that some people in Tokyo said Morioka was chosen by New York Times. Morioka, it's in Aomori Prefecture. Of course, Morioka is in Iwate Prefecture, but a few people don't know that Morioka is in Iwate Prefecture well. And other example is some people in Tokyo said Morioka was chosen. I've never been in Morioka, so I have no idea how Morioka is, what kind of city Morioka is. Please tell me, anybody like that. So I think it's necessary for Morioka City and Iwate Prefecture to explain about Morioka and Iwate, not only to the people abroad, but also to people in Japan also. So this year and maybe next coming years, Iwate Prefecture will make effort to explain about Morioka and Iwate together with Morioka City. Few months ago, it was in February or March, Mayor of Morioka, Mr. Tanifuji, and I went to so-called antenna shop of Iwate in Ginza to demonstrate how to eat wanko soba, that soba competition, wanko soba. So such promotion is necessary, I think. And about the population of the Morioka is not so decreasing, but Iwate's population is decreasing to considerable extent. So my strategy is to promote Morioka, to get people come to Morioka and increase the visitors to not only Morioka but also Iwate whole, to increase the visitors to Iwate and to promote business, including tourism in Iwate, and such promotion could lead not to increase of the population of Iwate, but 歯止めをかける
to put a stop to the sort of
population decreasing
the population decreasing
of Iwate.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Governor. My name is Yusuke Wada. I am an associate member here in FCCJ and held several committee chairmen here as well. I'm a funeral director as well as entrepreneur for Femtech and Aging Tech. And I was just there in Iwate 3 weeks ago. It was a very good place. People are friendly. The food's great, magnificent. I can't say anything good more. It was fantastic. And my question is that right now, I'm doing a femtech project in Hachinohe, the next door neighbor. And I found out several issues of the Shoko Kaigisho, the Chamber of Commerce. So I looked into Iwate's Shoko Kaigisho, the Chamber of Commerce issue. And Morioka and Oshu, I found out you can join anytime if you have established a business there. Hanamaki, it's open to anyone. Even I can join from here. And it's a fantastic place. You have highways, you have a Chongqing Kansas, and you also have the airport. It's the best place probably in Iwate Prefecture. And places like Miyako, I couldn't find anything about how to join the local Chamber of Commerce. But I did find an application. And it was the Kamaishi and Ichinoseki. They were putting a restriction of 6 months of after establishing a business there. To join the Chamber of Commerce. How do you expect people to do business if you are saying to please come and join to our community, but the Chamber of Commerce is saying we don't want you there by putting up a 6 months curfew. So starting a business, 6 months is very crucial for any small business, even within your prefecture. How do you expect people to start a business? Thank you.
起業を始めることについてお伺いします。八戸の方で、フェムテックの事業をやってまして、商工会議所についていろいろ調べているんですけれども、そうしたら隣の岩手についての商工会議所について調べたところ、盛岡、奥州、花巻などの商工会議所は、いつでも、入会しても大丈夫ということだったんですけれども、例えばですね、沿岸の方の宮古市というようなところには商工会議所どのように入会、できるのか、そういった情報なかなか見つからなくて、唯一見つかったのは例えば釜石市、一関市、ちょっと南部の方にあるんですけれども、商工会議所の入会については、企業を設立してから半年6ヶ月、その釜石や一関でそういう活動をしているというのが条件となっております。そういう条件があればなかなか岩手に、ぜひ来てぜひ起業を始めてくださいと言われても半年というのは起業するために結構長い期間なので、その対策について、お伺いします。
I think I must encourage chambers of commerce of Iwate to welcome people and companies outside of Iwate. Chambers of commerce in Iwate often told me that the number of members are shrinking, so help me, Governor, please. So they must be open to the outside. So I myself realized that this New York Times opportunity is to open Morioka and Iwate to outside, but some people in Iwate realized that, so I must encourage them to open Iwate on this opportunity. Thank you.
日本語で失礼しますけども、私は50年前に新聞記者になって一番最初に赴任した町が盛岡だったので、大変楽しい3年間を過ごしました。で素晴らしい町だと思ったんですね。私は育ったのは西日本ですけれども、行って学んだことはですね、盛岡の素晴らしさはもちろん東北らしさもあるんですけども、それと同時に非常に洗練された感じがあって、それは当時いろんな盛岡の人々に聞けば、それは近江商人が来て盛岡という町の中学を作ったんだと。でその代々人々がそれを守ってきたんだというふうなことがあって、それで関西の洗練された文化と東北らしさがうまく混ざってるなという感じがありました。でそういうことの近江との関係をいまだなんか
形作って何か作ろうとしてるのかっていうのが一つ、それからもう一つは私音楽に関心があったもんですから、東北でもですね、山形とかあるいは仙台であれば独自のオーケストラを持って、もう今はもう持ってるかどうか知らないんですけども、プロのオーケストラみたいなのを育っていらっしゃるのかとか、まだだとすればぜひ盛岡の音楽文化の素地から言えば持っていいんじゃないかというふうに思ったわけですが、その辺をちょっとお伺いしたいと思いました。
Did you mention your name?
お名前をお願いします。
今フリーランスで立花。
Hi, I'm a freelance writer. My name is Tachibana. About 50 years ago, the first place that I was assigned to as a reporter was Morioka, and I thought it was a very wonderful place. So I myself was raised in West Japan, and I thought as I came to Morioka, of course it has many parts that are relevant to Tohoku as a whole, but it has its own special sort of elegant and developed charm, is what I thought. And also the sort of development of the culture passed down from years to years, and also people coming from outside, and that sort of developing as a culture as a whole. And I was wondering what it was like now, and what are you doing to maintain and develop that, as well as the sort of music activities, like there are music activities in Tohoku and Yamagata, and I want to hear about the music activities of Morioka.
Iwate has an Iwate prefecture, Iwate people's orchestra, but they are very, how to say, amateur, so they are not so active than orchestra in Yamagata, Sendai, Miyagi, but Iwate people try to make orchestra in Iwate, its own orchestra. And Mr. Tachibana mentioned Omi Shonin. Omi is old name for Shiga Prefecture. Yes, merchant from Shiga Prefecture came to Morioka in Edo period, in the beginning of the Edo period, and they established commercial district and economy of Nambu clan. So even today, there is a Shiga people, the association in Iwate, and they annually get together to meet, and they are still important in Iwate in terms of commerce, economy, and culture. At the beginning of Edo period, Iwate was basically ruled by Nambu clan, and Nambu clan was originally their headquarters was in Aomori Prefecture, and they moved headquarters, main castle from Aomori Prefecture to Morioka, Iwate, because construction engineering technique had developed during Sengoku period before the Edo period, and they used brand new technology to build town of Morioka. Before that, Morioka was just a kind of wetland, no agriculture, and almost no people live there. So Morioka was a frontier for Nambu clan and other people. So Nambu clan invited merchants from Shiga Prefecture, and they invited tea ceremony professional from Kyoto and other economic, cultural, important people from other parts of Japan. And artisans and farmers were from surrounding part of Iwate. Even at the beginning of Meiji period, about 150 years ago, the population of Morioka was just 30,000, and Morioka annexed villages surrounding Morioka and grew bigger. And people from another part of Iwate, other parts of Iwate, and from outside of Iwate came into Morioka, and it grew into 280,000 people, mid-sized city. So history of Morioka is, I think, is similar to history of the United States. It was originally frontier, and people from outside came there and annexed other lands to grow itself, I think.
Do you have more questions? Yes, please.
Michio Nakamoto, freelance writer. Thank you very much for your talk today. I have two very short questions. First one is, a lot of local regional areas that have become world-class destinations have, for example, a famous museum or an art fair, for example, Bilbao or Art Basel, and in Japan we have Naoshima. Do you think Morioka can become truly world-class in terms of travel destination without such a museum or art fair or some kind of fair? That's my first question. My second question is, I was really surprised when Haro chose to come to Api. Did you do anything to encourage them to locate their school there? And what benefits do you expect from that situation? Thank you.
はい、フリーランスの中本と言います。2点についてお聞きします。1点目についてはですね、いろんな世界でも言いますと、地方でも世界トップレベルの観光地になったところの共通点としては、美術に関連している、アートに関連しているイベントや世界先端の美術館を持っているということで、そういう観点で考えますと、それがないと思われる盛岡市はどのように世界先端の観光地に、しようとしていますでしょうか。で2点目については最近はですねハローという有名な学校は岩手県の立地として出したということは非常にびっくりして、どのようにその立地を推進したのか、そしてまたその推進してそのメリットはどういったところでしょうか。
I think New York Times appreciated Morioka's culture of daily life, culture of everyday life, and the New York Times invited tourists to experience what ordinary people experience every day. Going to coffee shop, soba restaurant. Well, we Morioka people don't eat wanko soba every day, but we often go to that soba restaurant and sometimes have wanko soba festival with friends or relatives. Sometimes, anyway. So in Morioka's case. I think prefectural government and city government should encourage ordinary people to how to say, to level up or to enjoy their ordinary life much more, and such everyday life of ordinary people, that everyday life culture is appreciated in Morioka. So that is what we should do, and many cities, many parts of Japan can be promoted with such a way of Morioka to develop daily life culture rather than exotic attraction or some great museum like that. And to say about Harrow School, Appi Kogen Resort Company, which runs some hotels there and ski field there, they wanted to invite Harrow School to have international school in Appi Highland, and but Harrow School was reluctant for the first time at the beginning, and I helped the company to persuade Harrow School board members, saying that first I remember board members of Harrow School thought Tokyo is better than Iwate if they put a new international school in Japan, because international teachers cannot bear being in rural, far remote mountain place in Iwate. But I told board members that it takes only 2 hours from Tokyo to Morioka by Shinkansen, and about 30 minutes car drive bring people from Morioka to Appi. So they felt, oh, that's okay. Appi is not so far from Tokyo, and they say they can pay weekend special payment to go to Tokyo to relieve the stress or such things. And another point was Gakushu in school, which Japanese royal families go. That Gakushuin had the mountain house in Hachimantai city, close to Appi Highland. So when I told that, and current Emperor Naruhito went to Hachimantai city, close to Appi, and His Majesty enjoyed skiing and mountain trekking there. So board members became delighted to talk about Appi, and they visited Appi and they loved Appi, so decided to build international school in Appi, Hachimantai city, Iwate. They say that school is now most popular school in about 10 international schools of Harrow Group. So international teachers want to work in Appi now. I've heard that.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? Yes, please.
My name is Kei Yoshikawa, Business Insider staff writer. Thank you for Governor. I have two questions. First is Morioka was elected for the New York Times ranking. So, what impact and changes have there been on the tourism industry in Iwate Prefecture? For example, do you have specific numbers such as the number of foreign tourists, the amount of money tourists spent in Iwate? And the second question is, what preparation are you making to welcome to foreign tourists? Thank you.
ビジネスインサイダーの吉川と申します。2点伺いします。1点目は、ニューヨークタイムで、選出されたことについて、岩手の観光へのインパクトについてお聞きします。できれば具体的な数字、インバウンドの、外国お客さんの数ですとか、あとは岩手で、使った金額ですとか、そういった統計についてお聞きします。まず、あとは2点目についてなんですけれども、これからインバウンド、の観光についてはどのような施策を、検討しているでしょうか。
First, I don't have a concrete number of increase of tourists and increase of tourism income in Morioka, but well, people can observe actual increase of tourists in Morioka, including foreigners, especially Westerners in Morioka city. And I've heard that hotels and inns in Morioka are often packed, how to say, fully booked, and people are having difficulties in booking in hotels in Morioka. That should be 対策を講じる必要がありますね。
So I think it's necessary to develop policies to help with that.
To increase the capacity of hotels and inns in Morioka. And how to prepare for foreign tourists in Morioka is a good question. First, Tourism Association of Morioka had an idea to make a banner flag which say we were chosen by New York Times, we were chosen by New York Times to put everywhere in Morioka city. But municipal government denied that action because that 損なう、傷つける landscape. These are bad for landscape of Morioka. Landscape with nature, landscape with traditional ancient buildings. Such banners they don't suit for Morioka's landscape. But both Morioka government and Iwate government are going to increase foreign language 案内看板
guide stands, guide signs.
And maps also to help foreign tourists to walk in Morioka. So far.
Thank you. You have a short question? We extend this.
Thank you. It's long been said that the distribution of revenue or authority to the local government is needed to develop the local decision making. And I think you experienced hardships after the March 11 in 2011. And what kind of power distribution you expect to the central government?
中央政府の地方への交付金の、割合とあとは権利の割合についてなんですけれども、岩手県では2011年の震災の後でいろいろ大変なことあったと思うんですけれども、これからのそういった交付金、権限の割合についてどういったお考えでしょうか。
The national government get to 60% of tax from people, but in terms of spending, local government spend 60% of all national spending. So there must be a distribution adjusting mechanism between the national government and the local government, and because of the high centralization of Tokyo 一極集中, such high centralization of Japan, so local government cannot expect high speed increase of tax revenue. On the other hand, Tokyo and such big cities will enjoy high tax revenue from big companies and growing companies. So Japan needs adjustment of tax revenue and spending between central part of Japan and local part of Japan, which means distribution between the national government and the local government.
Thank you, Governor. If I may, I have a question online from Anthony Rowley, South China Morning Post. He asked, what impact do you think individual cities in Japan can have upon influencing Japan's foreign policy, especially with regard to Japan's relations with China? Thank you.
チャイナモーニングポストからの、オンラインの質問です。日本にある一つ一つの町が、これからの、日本の外交に関するインパクトというか印象はどのようにしていけるかと思いますか。特に中国と中日の関係についてのインパクトをお聞きしています。
I remember about 10 years ago, Chinese government and Japanese government made conflict on Senkaku Islands in Japanese Sea. In those days, we had difficulties in exchanging local governments of China. Such friendship exchange between local governments of Japan and China is disturbed by conflict between both governments. But local governments in China tried to maintain and improve friendship exchange with us, and we did so too. So when a situation of both national governments get better, so relationship between local governments get better. So yes, I wish good relationship between two national governments, and local regions of Japan have a lot of needs to improve relationship between Chinese local regions and us in terms of cultural exchange and trade and tourism also.
Thank you very much for this answer. I think this wraps up our event. Before we finish, I want to tell you something. There was a long time ago, there was a very big and scary beast and monster. He arrived to a city, and everybody was supposed to feel afraid, and the destruction was supposed to start. But the people of that city were very kind and committed, and they managed to talk to that beast and make a contract with him to be very peaceful and nice. And the contract was signed, and the beast has his hand, Te, printed on a rock, Iwa, and the name became Iwate, and that's how that city, that prefecture, gained its name Iwate. So the people of Iwate managed to domesticate the beast and make very nice combination. And I think today we learned a lot about this beautiful prefecture and the nice people. Thank you very much, Governor, for coming here. And for that, I would like to give you 1 year honorary membership. And also thank you for telling me the story about the beast in our. And this is good for 1 year. Please come to our club again and enjoy our club. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming and also online, and have a nice evening.
That salsa dance